building structures. It also obviously unlocks the different levels to access higher recipes. When you get to the later stages of crafting, it's going to take significant amounts to get to the higher levels, like level 6 or 7. You're going to need to build big rafts and big bases if you want to get the most out of it. For your physical skill, you just need to do running and swimming, and it will give you more stamina while doing activities the higher levels you get. Harvesting decreases the number of hits required to gather, so when you hit a tree, you'll probably take the tree down within only 3 or 4 hits if you're at a higher level. Same thing goes for items being returned to you. You can destroy the structures you've built and you will get some resources back. The higher your level in harvesting, the more of the resources you get back, and none goes to waste. These plants, while they're pretty, don't seem to have much of a use. Maybe they'll be happening in a future update. Right. Hello Ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a Stranded Deep beginner's guide for the first 2 days. I've already shown you guys how to make your own custom maps. If you want to make them a bit easier or harder or just a bit more interesting, you can do that. You can adjust the options to turn off sharks as well as make them like permanent challenge. But today we're going to be focusing on just the first 2 days. Quick edited guide showing you what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and what I find the most useful. I'm sure you guys have got more tips for me. Let me know in the comment section if I missed anything. This is pretty much just how to survive in the first 2 days. Press LT and then pull it, and you should be able to put it off in. Get around the other side, hold LT or L2, and then press RT or R2, and you will eventually push it, just like that. That's a great way to fix stuff that's really stuck somewhere, and it makes your life a lot quicker and easier than dragging it all the time. Also pull the raft directly in so it's well on the land. And the next thing, absolutely make sure you take a look inside the life raft storage. You've got rations, you don't need to worry about food, not even water. Rations give you water supply as well as food. You've got a little compass there, that's going to be and that won't be useful for now, because you're not really going to unlock any recipes that can use them just yet. Remember, everything is associated with your levels. As you do more, you'll increase your hunting, cooking, harvesting, and craftsmanship. So far, I've not noticed anything that says making one type of thing over another is going to get you more craftsmanship. So the more hunting you do, the better you're going to get at it. So you kill animals faster and you'll use less ammo. When you're cooking, it decreases the cooking time overall the more levels you have. Crafting means that you have to hit things with fewer hits, so it basically speeds stuff up when you're building structures. It also obviously unlocks the different levels to access higher recipes. When you get to the later stages of crafting, it's going to take significant amounts to get to the higher levels, like level 6 or 7. You're going to need to build big rafts and big bases if you want to get the most out of it. For your physical skill, you just need to do more running and swimming, and it will give you more stamina while doing activities the higher levels you get. Harvesting decreases the number of hits required to gather, so when you hit a tree, you'll probably take the tree down within only 3 or 4 hits if you're a higher level. Same thing goes for items being returned to you. You can destroy the structures you've built and you will get some resources back. The higher your level in harvesting, the more of the resources you get back and none goes to waste. These plants, while they're pretty, they don't seem to have much of a use. Maybe they'll be happening in a future update. Right now there are no recipes that use the Rula plant. Tarpling's always good, pick up all the stones you can. Obviously this is a harvesting survival game, you should know this. This plant particularly is going to help you breathe underwater for longer. You need 2 of them, so make sure you grab these. You'll need this in a little while. Although you will have to be at least crafting level 4, I do believe, before you can make them. Grabs are best just avoided until you get yourself a little spear. You can go ahead and try hacking away at a knife, just make sure you're crouching while you do it, otherwise the crab will kind of mess you up a bit. Top tip as well, that I've not even followed, leave your paddle on your boat. It doesn't really make an effective melee weapon, so you're better off just putting it back. Yucca plants are going to be your best source for getting fibrous, and this is what you're going to use to make lashing or rope. As soon as you get on the island, or any island, go for the yucca plants first and harvest every single one available so that they respawn in a couple of days quickly. If we hold R1 or RB, you can actually quick craft whatever you've got in terms of resources. I can make a stone tool. So let's do that and let's hack away. Now I've turned the tutorial off as I've played the game a fair bit now, and I think there's a quicker and easier way to get set. rather than just doing exactly what the tutorial says. This will take another day or so to grow back, maybe even 2. There's one more just hidden away in the rocks here, and there's one more here too. You can take damage while falling off of heights. Be careful. For that, to fix it, you're going to have to craft a splint. Now I'm okay with that. That was just about okay. But anything bigger than that, and you will have to make yourself a splint. One of the first upgrades you want to concentrate on is a tool belt. This really helps keeping lots of inventory space. As long as you find 2 tarp bin, you'll need a second tarp bin to make a water filter. So if you only find one, save it for the water filter. Otherwise, make the tool belt upgrade. If you hold R1 or RB, you can see your tool belt there, and you can upgrade it so you've eventually got 4 items. I'm going to make one more lashing and we'll get a refined knife. And this is something we're going to put in our tool belt up top. Press up on the D-pad and then go down to whatever you want to add to it. And there we go. I've now got a quick and easy way to pull up my knife. These plants here are a lifesaver. These will cure your poison. I've already done a guide on all the consumables, so if you want to know all the potions, go and check it out. But you need 2 of these. Usually there's only 1 on the starting island, so you have to normally go to another island. In the meantime, you must avoid the purple starfish that you see sometimes lying around in the coast or just in the shallow waters. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you get poisoned on the first day, you're pretty much going to die unless you really quickly move to another island and make that poison antidote. Poison diminishes your health and it will just keep going down. No matter even if you've got a full food and water bar, it will start killing you. Doesn't matter how many bandages you craft, you have to get your food and water above 4 bars for it to regenerate over time. Sleep doesn't really affect it either. My SPF is getting pretty hot, so I'm going to have to dive into the water in a moment just to take cover. Later on you'll be able to make an aloe balm, and this will stop you getting sunburn and protect you for a good few hours afterwards. But for now, in your first few stages, you pretty much are going to have to just hide underneath the water, unless there's a lot of shade. It doesn't really work if you're only partially in the water. You do have to have your head completely under. Just bear in mind that you might drown if you're not paying attention to the blue bar, which is your oxygen. It replenishes almost immediately, so you can keep going back and under, and you want to get at least 2 SPF bars filled back up before you go exploring the rest of the island. And obviously pay attention to the hottest parts of the day, usually between 12 and 3 o'clock. 2 bars should just about do it. Let's go. Now if you're really quick, you can catch some fish even just attacking them with your little knife. But to be honest, you probably don't need to do that. Like I said, you've got rations. Although we need to learn to cook to complete the tutorial part, it's not really a necessity. So don't spend half an hour chasing fish or trying to hit a crab. Gather up any loose bits of sticks, and rocks obviously are really important too. You can carry a maximum of up to 4 of any type of resource inside your inventory, except possibly big logs. And some materials like fibrous plants you can carry up to 12 in one slot. You'll often find you're over encumbered and just haven't got enough slots to hold stuff. This is why you need to upgrade the tool belts as much as possible. Now these red crates are pretty useless. I've never found much inside them at all. Hopefully one day they'll actually add some loot to them. Now controversially, I'm going to say go and explore some of the wreckage that you see around you before you even think about making a water still or anything else. Like I said, you don't need water or food straight away. Your bar's pretty healthy. And you can always take a coconut if you're desperate for water. And then ration bars that we've got inside our raft will help us. So before the end of the day begins to close in, drop some of your stuff that you've got and go and explore some of the wreckages. You will come across some smaller sharks on the starter island and pretty much in and around some of the shallow waters. But don't worry, these sharks are docile. You can't kill them, you can't attack them to get any meat, and they won't hurt you. It's only the bigger ones that you have to worry about. Depending on what wreckage you've got, you may get really lucky and have something decent, or on this occasion you've got the little cruise boat, which is pretty much more or less useless. There's not much in here at all. Other than that console, you'll find a small locker sometimes just behind the bar, but that is pretty much it. Don't forget your water, and be careful that you can't actually swim out of the windows. You've got to go right out the back and get up before that yellow bar closes in. When you run out of oxygen, the screen will start going black. That's when you know you've got to get air quickly. As far as I know, loot doesn't respawn in the wreckage. So once you've explored one and you've completely got everything off it, that's it. You can forget going back to that again. At night time's closing in. Don't worry, we're going to be alright. We're going to focus on getting as quickly as we can to the other wreckages before it gets too dark. Let's see if we can get to this one. That red bar is your stamina. You won't be able to do much while it's going back up. Just keep swimming around till you find a doorway. And then go and raid whatever's inside. Really not having much luck with this one today. It's usually only the lockers and the consoles that have gear and items in them, or some wooden chests that you'll find often in some of the larger ships especially. And we've got ourselves a refined hammer. This is perfect, and this is the reason why you should go and explore the wrecks as soon as you can. That refined hammer is going to help you to build bases and a hell of a lot more. These vehicle parts are to build your gyrocopter as well as make a fuel burner later so that you can create your own fuel and escape the game. That's not necessarily going to be useful just now. What you can do is pick up the whole crate if you want to save time. In fact, if you put items back in it,
that doesn't look good.
You should be able to then pick up the crate. It's a quicker and easier way to transport stuff. It's getting dark now, we're going to lose the light, so let's head back and make ourselves a campfire. So in our first day we've lost 3 bars of water, but our food is pretty decent, only losing 1.5. Now, unlike other games, the dark in Stranded Deep isn't that bad. You can still go ahead and see quite a bit around you, especially when the moon's out. You'd have to be really unlucky if it starts raining or if it gets really dark and grey. Well, now we've got all our items in a nice little pile, let's think about getting ourselves a campfire. We need 4 sticks to do so. Let's see if we can grab another one on the floor, or we'll go for a thin, small little tree. This is perfect. You get 2 sticks from these normally. Obviously it's a lot quicker with an axe. We're going to craft one of them up very soon. I just got hit by a crab. That's the one bad thing about running around in the dark. It's harder to see the crabs. There's the campfire. Now we need to build ourselves a fire starter. For that we're going to need more sticks. 2 in fact. Let's try and not get done over by a crab this time. Quick craft again. Hold the RB, R1, and then go ahead and make your kindling. And there you go. That'll burn a good long while to keep feeding it so it doesn't go out. Just add more sticks to it when they're in your hand. Drop the kindling right next to it as it will be useful for later. And then if you did manage to get yourself a fish, you might as well go ahead and cook it, or any other type of crab. But like I said, if you're desperately hungry for food, you've got 3 rations inside. One thing though I will say is the end game relies on you having a lot of food, so it might be a wise idea to keep some of the stuff that you've got in terms of the rations that you find. It might be easier to transfer them and not have to worry about them spoiling. All food does spoil, particularly if you leave it on the ground. Now, why can't you put the fish on it? Well, you've got to gut it and trim it first. So make sure you've got your knife and go ahead and skin it. You can skin a variety of animals. If you catch a bird or a bat even sometimes hanging from the trees, they can also be skinned and eaten. And there we go, we've attached it. That'll take a good few minutes to cook, and you'll hear a little ding. You can hear a little sizzle sound. To increase your cooking potential, you must be close to the fire. If you go out of earshot of it, that's it, you won't get any experience while cooking. So make sure you're within the sound of it. Let's take a look at what else we need now to make our save stick. 3 sticks, 1 lashing and 4 fronds. Let's pin that one. I'm going to make some more stone tools because we're going to need them to make ourselves an axe. The crude axe needs 2 of them. Oh, you just heard that ding. 1 stick and 1 lashing. Let's drop all the rest of our gear at the moment we don't need, including that chest. Now you can see I've got 3 water just about, and I've got 5 food. Let's eat the small food. Increases the food by 1 whole bar. Small pieces of meat won't necessarily give you any more water. It's usually only rations and fruit that will do that too. I've got my 2 stone tools, so what we're going to do is go and get a stick and we'll be able to craft ourselves an axe. Don't worry, nothing's really going to get you on your first island. You'll be really unlucky if there was a snake. But when you go to other islands, you will find the night snakes a little bit more active, and this is what you need to be careful of. Generally during the day the snakes don't move around too much, you'll hear them rattle and just avoid them, but at night time they tend to move about a little bit more, so it's a bit harder to avoid. Usually 2 or 3 spear hits will take it down. Don't go after your spear if it doesn't kill it within the first hit, otherwise this is what's going to happen to you, just like it happened to me when I went and explored a second island. The snakes can be really hard to kill if you've only got left with an axe to try and take it down. It is possible, but you are going to get bit multiple times. Every hit is going to decrease your health by 2, and they've got 200 health points, so you're going to have to hit it lots and lots of times to kill it. So don't do this. Make sure you only attack it with throwable spears or a bow and arrow, or just simply leave it alone. Eventually I have finally got rid of it, and yes, just avoid it. You won't find one of these normally though until you hit the second islands or some of the islands around you. Not every island has snakes, but it's the ones with the big huge large rocks tend to have them. You often find lots of adult boars on these maps and islands as well. There really isn't much point in going near a snake. It doesn't give you any snake skin or any leather. In fact, it only gives you small meat. So it's just not worth your time trying to take one on for food. There are easier things to eat. If you just want to be safe on an island, well, they will respawn, but only after 7 days. Just to give you a rundown on some of the other creatures you're going to face in the first stages. Stingrays are harmless. They will avoid you. They're passive unless you go try and attack them. They've only got 45 health points, so a few hits and they'll be gone, and they will give you 2 small meat. You can find starfish. They can't be interacted with. You can't pick them up and you can't destroy them. Sea urchins will give you poison and you can't kill them, so you just got to avoid them. Sea snakes cannot be killed either. The ones that you see running around, the black and white ones in the sea, avoid them. They will give you poison effect. Just like the lionfish, that will also give you poison effect, but you can use lionfish to make repellent. I've shown you guys how, as I mentioned earlier, in my special consumables video, so go and watch that one. If you're looking for leather, one of the only real ways to get it is by killing boars. Now boars are harmless to you, they won't do any damage, and they've got 200 health points, so it will take a number of hits to kill them. They'll also give you 2 medium meat, and this can be beneficial too, obviously for filling up your food much more. The bats you can hear around you, they only take 1 hit to take down. They won't kill you or damage you, and they give you 1 small meat. The same goes for seagulls. One thing to watch out for is the giant versions of some of these creatures. There is a giant hog that will give you 4 raw hide and 2 large meat, but it does take a considerable amount of health points to take down. Likewise, there are giant crabs. This is also considered a mini little boss, and it will definitely give you a bit of trouble, so make sure you're attacking it with spears, especially if you can get up somewhere higher where it can't reach you. There's plenty of fish in the sea that you can either grab with your spear, maybe hit with your knife, or go fishing with, and obviously there's lots of sharks, but I'm not going to cover them yet. Remember, this is meant to be a beginner's guide, but just give you a heads up of what you can attack in the first few islands and what you should probably just avoid. And that's pretty much all you need to know for the first day or 2 of surviving. Make yourself a save point, make sure you save the game before sleeping, and a top tip as well, you can only sleep once a night. So no matter what happens, normally there's always a little bit of dark, or you wake up really early and there's still a little bit of dark. Now the fire's gone out, but don't worry too much, we can feed it more wood when we need it. Like I said, we've got plenty of food if we want it in the rations, and right now our food's doing alright. But you'll notice our water is getting a little bit low. So next up we're going to be concentrating on this, but we need to get to level 2 before we can make it. So craft some blades up, maybe make yourself another axe, and just generally build your crafting levels up to level 2. It's probably a good idea to make as many lashings and stuff as you can find, and while we're at it we'll have a little drink of a coconut to just replenish a little bit more. You can't rely on coconuts forever though. As soon as you start drinking more than 3 coconuts in a day, you'll start getting sick. When this happens, you'll start losing water, basically getting diarrhea, needing a little bit more food. Go ahead and chop it in 2. Go away, Mr. Crab. And you can eat the coconut flesh too. You see our water, it's 1 1/4, and our food is just about 4. You can see it's gone and increased that food only a tiny bit by about 1/4. If you eat the coconut, it usually gives you 1 full bar of food. There you go, our craftsman's levels increased, and now we can make our first water still. I'm going to pin it, and we've pretty much got nearly everything we need already. We just need 1 coconut flask and 1 piece of tarpaulin. That's why you've got to save at least 1 piece of tarpaulin to make the water filter. You don't have to have all the items in your hand, As long as you're close by them, it will take it that you've got them close to hand. Let's go and get ourselves a coconut flask. You're going to need one lashing for this as well. Now you can go ahead and just climb one of the palm trees, but you might as well chop it down, as you'll probably need it later on, especially as you're going to need the fronds that are on top to refill the water filter. I'm just going to go ahead and chop these up here. Now don't chop your coconut up, it's got to be whole. Go inside and you should be able to move over to consumables and make your coconut flask. There you go, we can now make our water still. Put it somewhere very close and perfect. Now it will have a little bit of water in it fairly quickly. You'll notice it's just like a campfire, it says you've got to feed it. Well, you can see at the bottom it's fronds that you need to feed it with. So just put them inside your hand and feed them up. I would leave a good 3 or 4 just next to it, ready to go whenever you need some. And there we go, we start collecting our first water as well. It's always a good idea to keep this topped up as much as possible. And ideally, you need to keep your water and your food above level 4 at times so that you keep regenerating your health just in case you run into a crab or something else. If your wreckages haven't been too kind and you've not managed to pick up any cloth, you're going to have to go to another island. So really scope out and see if there's one that has got some wreckages from a distance. That's going to be your best bet for finding some cloth. There is ways that you can make cloth, but it involves crafting higher level crafting sections like the loom. Also the loom uses up quite a lot of the fibre plants. So it's maybe not the best bet just yet, but it's definitely something you can consider if you want to spend a bit more time on one island. With the dwindling light just about approaching, now's the time to go hunting and get yourself enough food to cook through the night, and the next day you're going to be setting out on a new island. Look out for my next guide coming in, showing you how to build rafts, the difference in the rafts that you can make and craft, and generally what you should be looking out for when exploring some of the islands. If you found this video useful, let me know by hitting up with a like. Make sure you've got notifications on, obviously if you're subscribed, and get the best in survival games news, previews, reviews and guides. I will see you at days later.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are in the awesome survival game called Stranded Deep. Now I have sunk nearly 200 hours into this game over the years, and every time there's a big update I like to come back in and take a closer look. Previously I did a video of 20 tips and it covered lots of things that were relevant to that version. So what I've done now is I've gone back in, it's a couple of years later, we've got 25 tips this time, looking at a whole range of subjects. So I hope that you find something useful here, something you didn't know, and that it enriches your time in Stranded Deep. Let's get going. Tip 1. I like to build a fair few water still collectors. That's because they're not like they used to be in the game. They don't automatically fill up, gathering the moisture from the air. They only fill up when it rains. And sometimes it can go for days without raining. So the more you have to collect the rain when it comes, the better. In fact, I'm probably going to build a couple more. When I'm out and about exploring islands, I will build a shelter, generally on most islands, unless I'm there quickly. And when I build the shelter, you can see it's got this arrow, this point to it. I will always point this back to my main island, kind of like an indicator of which direction to head back. Because it can be quite confusing when you're navigating which way your base is, unless of course you take the compass, and even then it can still be quite confusing. So I use these to point back in the direction that I've come from. The best crop in game is the potato. Not because you eat it, because you turn it into fuel for your engine. See over there, I've got a raft with an engine. They're difficult to come by, and you have to monitor them because the crop can die, and you will lose the potato. When it is there, you'll see a little sign that says you can gather the potato. You do that, and you will then need to put it in a still up here, in this fuel still, and it will fill this fuel still collector, and you can take the fuel out of it there. So they are really valuable. Don't waste them early on, save them, and even if they go spoilt, you can then plant them up and grow more potatoes. Really important. If you want to get around all the islands quickly, save your potatoes. A great source of food early on is the bird snare. Really recommend it. It gives you meat, and it's constantly working. It doesn't need any maintenance. Put it on a surface like this rocks here, where you've seen birds land, maybe even on the shoreline. It will catch a bird every so often. You can gather them down here, and they don't go off. They just lie here, and you can skin them using a knife, and you can start to collect up some meat. The most efficient way of preserving food is in the smoker. You can see it here. You've got to build the fire, then the ring of stones, and then the actual smoker itself. It doesn't need a lot of materials, but you can hang 4 bits of meat in here. Like I've just talked about the birds. This one, you can put small bits of meat in here. After a while, the meat will turn brown, and it's then preserved, and a good source of food. You can see a bit here. Tip 6. I like to keep a water skin next to my water still collectors. This is because if these fill up, yeah, they will stop filling. There's 4 servings, if you like, for each still. If you fill up, you can drink up to your own fill, so you're topped up with water. But if there's still more water, having the empty water skin there, or the water skin, you can use it to take some of the water off the water still collector and preserve it in that, and it will stay in that forever. It never dries up in the water skin. Tip 7. When building your raft, you will have your motor or your rudder at the back. It's tempting to put the anchor at the back as well, as you would do maybe a ship, I don't know. But what I find is really convenient is if you have the anchor at the front of your raft. So even while you're controlling the rudder, you can reach over and drop or lift the anchor, making the stop quick, because it's actually quite difficult to stop sometimes in the right spot, and if you can just reach out and drop the anchor as easy as this. Tip 8. And another important thing you don't necessarily realise early on is you can have a motor and a rudder on the same raft. Because fuel is in such short supply in game, you ultimately will run out if you're out on a foray. Having the rudder and then of course the sail as well on the same raft means that you can carry on travelling once your motor runs out of fuel. Tip 9. Again, another raft tip. I always keep my raft small. I find it much easier to manoeuvre, and in the past I've had big rafts and they are really slow to turn, and in fact they generally feel slower as they're travelling. So I keep them just to 3 platforms. Don't forget you need to create floors on your raft before you can place down your motors or your rudders. That's really important, and the sails. So you need the buoyancy and then the floor as well. Tip 10. One of the predators in the game is the giant crab. can do you some damage. But the best way to take it out is to creep up behind it and hit it from behind. Now crabs can't turn, so you are out of reach, if you like, of that crab. And then 5 or 6 hits later, it will die. It kind of runs off. Most of the animals in game will run off when they're at a certain damage level. Ultimately they will return if they see you again, but that's the best way to take crabs out, from behind, just like that. The refined pick is a very handy tool to have, even early on. Now, when you set yourself up on an island, my base is over there, you will use up all the rock on the island. Now, rock is a really vital resource because it helps you build axes, and you don't find like a modern axe anymore in game. That's been taken out. You can only make axes now. And so, being able to harvest rock from these nodes is quite handy. To get the refined axe, you need leather to make the refined axe, so you can find it in crates or containers on ships if you haven't got to the stage where you can make it yet. And then you can gather the rock by hitting these nodes. You get maybe 3 or 4 on a big island, maybe a couple on a small island, and you gather the very important resource that is rock. Tip 12. You can actually see whether the moon is rising or setting because it's actually moving. See, I put the pointer there. You see this moon is rising up at the moment. So we've got the full night ahead of us. Tip 13. As I travel from island to island, I collect up the lanterns. I then place them around my base and turn them on. Now, during the day, they automatically turn themselves off. But at night, when it hits a certain light level, they will pop back on and the base is nicely lit. Also, another really good source of light is the furnace. You can see up here. I have these inside, but it's always burning and it will provide with a constant source of light, which is very handy. Tip 14. When a fire is burning, it will just keep burning until it is either out of fuel or you extinguish it. Monitor them. It is a waste of wood if you just let the fire burn out. Often the meat will cook more quickly and it won't need all the fuel on the fire. So tip 14, monitor your burning fires. Now this one obviously we can extinguish. We don't need it burning there. Tip 15. When considering your structure, it's quite nice to have a structure for shelter and for storage and just to keep things in order. The tarp walls are really cheap to make. They just take 1 cloth and then you can put up a tarp wall like that, and it gives you a structure to build upon. It goes up quickly, and you can make cloth out of the fibrous leaves with the loom as the game develops, so it's quite an effective method. Also, the corrugated scrap, you just need 1 of those to make this corrugated wall with a window, so that goes up pretty quickly. And you tend to find corrugated scrap a bit more commonly than, say, the plank wall. It's probably partly because you can make the plank walls. Now, there are a number of containers in the game where you've got your standard wood container you find around in ships and wrecks and whatnot, and they can take 3 spaces. You've then got tables which you can stack stuff on, and a container shelf. Now, these do not open like the boxes, and the tables themselves are quite awkward. You have to drop things on them and they can kind of roll off, and it's very disorganized. The boxes themselves are great to store things in, so I sometimes line them up like this and put certain objects in these, although it's difficult to remember exactly where and which containers objects are in. So I tend to stack my objects like this. It doesn't really look very neat and tidy, but I find it the most efficient, quick way to find stuff and to build stuff, especially seeing if you've got it on the floor in front of you and you press C to craft something, it will take everything that is on the floor there into your crafting recipe so that you can make things quickly rather than have to rummage through different crates. So I always at the moment find it that hopefully they will introduce a better system for storing items in game at some point. You will find lots of different engine parts around the map. Okay, they're generally filters, what else we got here? Fuel, electrical parts. But the most valuable engine part is this here, the vehicle engine part. They're pretty rare. You don't find any of them around the map. If you see one, do not leave it behind. Take it with you. It's an integral part of the raft motor, and then also when you build the gyrocopter, you need it for that engine as well. Now, obviously the gyrocopter parts are unique, and they're found in a specific location on the ship. So I don't really count those in this. It's the vehicle engine part. If you see it, grab it. Don't leave it behind. Tip 18. Palm saplings and yucca trees all respawn on your island. When you see them respawn, go and harvest them, because then they can start their cycle again. And you can keep a good supply going. You can see how my axe is just broke there. You can see these make the lashing. And you need this in lots of different recipes. It's one of the key resources. So they respawn. So go out and harvest those. 19. The only other resource that respawns on your island is the crab. The giant crab. Okay. And you can skin them and you get 2 bits of crab meat. And so because it does respawn, you have to be a little bit careful. Suddenly there one will appear and attack you, pinch you, and do some damage. But like the palm saplings, the crabs do respawn. And I'm not really including the birds in this because I don't see them as part of the island flora and fauna. Tip 20. When I'm heading out on a looting run, I will normally take with me 5 or 6 containers. Now, if you look at your normal inventory, you can carry 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 items. Right? If you take the cases, each container takes up 1 space in your inventory, and each wooden container has 3 slots inside it. So you can triple your load by taking the containers with you. And obviously when you're out you will pick up containers, so you don't have to take a full load if you don't want to. But if you're doing a run for, say, wood or other resources such as that, take the containers. It's much more efficient. Tip 21. When you're building your first raft, you need to do it out at sea, out beyond the island. So you can see the tide here. Okay, when you put down your first buoyancy section of your raft, you go here, your wood raft base, for example, or the tyres raft base, immediately it gets taken by the current, and it's because your body has no mass, you can't stop things, just the very nature of the game. You'll need to have with you the equipment to make a floor and the anchor. Okay, so as soon as you build the base, put the floor on top of it, and then jump on top of that. You better hold space and climb on top, and then lay down your anchor. Otherwise, what will happen is as you can see over here, the wooden base gets swept up to the shore, and you just can't do anything with it after that. It's worth noting that you can dismantle a range of objects, including foundations. So you have to keep hitting. A little hammer comes up, and it shows the item being dismantled. And then once you've dismantled it, you will get back a percentage of your original build. Not all of it. So, for example, if you dismantle a motor, you don't get the motor part back. Tip 23. The Crude Spear is an efficient weapon. You can build it using one stick, and then you'll find it takes about 6, 7 or 8 strikes to kill a shark like this, or a boar. You right hold and then press the left mouse button to fire, or release the right, pull the spear back. And you can see here, you can go in and collect the spears up again, like this. And then, if you've got a knife, you can skin. This is a tiger shark. Get the hide. Gotta have the knife on you to do this. So, making the most of this shark. Now we've got 3 skin, 1 meat, 2 meat, and 3 meat. So you can harvest the sharks. It's quite handy to have a little pontoon area like I've created there to be able to do that. And sometimes they will run off, they will swim away if they're near to death, but they will retain the damage and the spears in their bodies. So you might see them again later on with those spears embedded in them. Tip 24. When travelling around, you will see the islands have a particular shape. The rocks in the middle take a particular form, and you can tell which is your own island through the shape of the central pillar of rock, if you like. Some of them are shorter, some of them have more than one rock, some of them are, well, I guess, kind of phallic. And you'll also see that there are masts that stick out of the water as well. These can be quite distinctive. I often spot this mast here from a distance, and it kind of reassures me that I'm heading back to the right island. So just take little visual cues as you travel around and use them to guide you back to safety. Tip 25, and my last tip for this video, is always think about where your next drink is coming from. It really is key. Ultimately, you may need to go and restock on coconuts and strip the islands in your area like I have done here. They keep you going. Building more water stills, definitely, as I've said before, is important. But if it hasn't rained, and it hasn't rained for days and days, they don't fill up. They're no good. Tuna in the early game is something that's going to quench your thirst, but there are really few other sources, so you really are praying for the rain. And the catch is, if you're out off your island and it's raining, you don't gather water back at your own base. It doesn't seem to spread across to your own island. It seems to be only where you are will it affect the stills. So you've got to stay on your island and see if it rains. If you go off, it's not going to gather in your water stills. So build your water still collectors, gather your coconuts, and always think about where your next drink is coming from. 25 tips for Stranded Deep. Hope you found them useful, interesting, helpful. I hope there was something there that you didn't know, and that it enriches your experience in this really awesome game. It's a lot of fun. I come back to it from time to time when the developers have updated it and then try and complete everything in game. I haven't actually done the gyrocopter yet. I'm going to get around to doing that. I'm not too worried about that. What my key thing is survival, how to survive in game. I'm thinking about doing some more content for this, but I need to know whether that's something you would be interested in watching. If you are, please let me know down below. And for instance, I've got a tour of the main ship in game, the shipwreck, and wonder whether you'd like to see that. If you do, let me know down below. Otherwise, if you haven't subbed already, it would be awesome if you could. There'll be other survival game content on this channel, as there has been for years now. So you can always go back and check some of that as well. So guys, thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.